Well, it appears I have found myself in another house on the other side of the world. Funny how that works out, eh? I can't remember much, but I do remember being forced to pack away all my stuff against my will, and apparently it won't be back for like 3 more weeks.
I fret not, though. See, ordinarily, obviously, I'd talk on and on about games, but, well, I don't have much right now. Fortunately, however, during this period of time, I've still found myself thoroughly entertained through the lovely web show Battle for Dream Island, particularly its 4th season. If you clicked on this video, I'm gonna assume you know what BFB is already, so I won't bother explaining how the show works, and plus, I plan to talk more about these things in the future. What I was interested in during my rewatch of the first half, post-split, of BFB was how do the teams stack up? Not necessarily which one is my favorite, more so just what do I think of them in general, cause weirdly it's something I'd never really put much thought into until recently. All of these teams are very iconic in my opinion, but are some better than others? Do I have favorites? These are questions that need to be answered. The answer to both are most certainly yes, by the way. These, by all means, are not deep reviews of any of the teams at all. They're like a minute each, and I'm just going with my gut feeling for all of them. I just thought it'd be kind of fun. So, I'm just going to spin this wheel spinner 8 times, and whatever order it decides is the order I'll talk about the teams in, meaning we start with Iance, eh? Alright then. See, the main shtick of Iance that I really enjoy is the fact that it's basically 2 mini-teams merged into one by proxy of Flower's needs. Most teams obviously have 1 or 2 odd one outs, but the dichotomy between the free smart half of Iance and the snowball side, while nothing out of this world, creates for an interesting team dynamic and some fun scenes, like Ruby and Flower's humorous and cute debacle at the start of episode 5, or just something as simple as it being Snowball cheering on Lightning helping the team, also in episode 5. And over time, they function as a whole better, particularly in BFB 13 and 14, which is sick to see. There was also the whole mini-arc with Bubble and Match, which was some nice tension. Iance, I think, is definitely a team you have to warm up to, especially since for a while near the beginning of the season, they got like no screen time. But overall, you guys are cool. Somewhat contrasting Iance, my thing with Team Ice Cube that I like is how this grouping feels very much like a family. I mean, hey, you literally have Donut give his team a speech about how they can succeed in episode 3, and then much later in episode 14, you have them hanging out in the buried forest, saving Barfbag, Donut sacrificing himself for a fellow team member. This bunch feels very much like they care for each other, which is cute. And on top of that, this group's cast feels very well-rounded, more so than most other teams. All these characters, especially Donut, Barfbag, and Gelatin, have great merit to them, in my opinion. Except Fiery Jr. And then you also have the whole thing with Donut being host, that definitely gives this team brownie points, as well as a very biased yet enjoyable scene. I don't have that much to say about Team Ice Cube, same with Iance, but they're definitely swell bunches. Team Beep. Now this team is the definition of taking an inch and turning it into a mile. On paper, they're a team that's kinda doomed from the start. I mean, come on, Balloony, David, Robotty, and the writers definitely beat them senseless with 3 eliminations within 10 episodes, yet despite all of that, I find them really fun and interesting to watch. At the beginning of the show, they were like the most discordant grouping of people you could ever conjure, and more so in episode 2 due to Leafy's jobs, but after she got eliminated and they actually got their stuff together, they all meshed together super nicely. Their performance in BFB 5, for example, despite losing, and despite their tactics being, like, really stupid, it's super sweet and fun to watch them work together. Or take BFB 13 and 14 as another. These are some of my favorite scenes in the entire show because similar to another team, these characters feel more like friends with real personalities with how they interact. I also find Beep to be the most comedic of all the teams, which just further adds to my enjoyment of them. There's many moments I could mentally call back to that I find pretty hilarious. For a team that's full of gimmick characters, oh, here's the scared one, the robot, the human who only says all seriously, and so on, they're surprisingly one of the best. And it's weird because I see most people online don't really like them. How could y'all? The Losers, a team I normally forget exist. It's not like they're a bad team, I just can't really see them as much more than filler, man. I mean, initially, up until Loser was eliminated, most of the team just greased him. Now, I actually quite like Loser, and it's not like it was all the time, but most of the members just felt void of personality. I mean, you have the iconic pin and coiny scene, which was a breath of fresh air for this team, and once Leafy joined them, each character was definitely given more to work with. Like in BFB 15, for example, the losers were awesome, but by the time they actually started ramping up, the split was right around the corner. I get I'm being harsh on them, but if I'm going with my gut, truly, what did they do for most of pre-split? Despite having some of my favorite characters, I don't have much to say, and the losers, you guys are lame. At the start of the video, I asked myself if I have a favorite team. Well folks, here it is. Beat may give them some run for their money, but Death Pact, I feel, takes the cake. For starters, this team by far has the most amount of characters who, up to that point, had never competed, with Pen being the only returner. So automatically, they have the advantage of just being interesting because we've never seen their personalities before. Characters like Black Hole, Tree, and Remote are standout newbies to me. Secondly, I find them unique considering they care more about preventing death than actually winning the challenges, at least most of them. Now granted, this is a far bigger focal point in Teapot than it ever was in BFB, and how effective they are at actually preventing death is an area that could reasonably be debated, but it still creates for a more interesting team dynamic and some neat moments. And thirdly, I don't know man, they're just cool. Like, they feel like a group of high school buddies with the way they interact, and they also have one of the coolest scenes in the entire season during episode 4, so props to them. I've seen many people say Death Pact is their favorite team also, and given how it's present in Teapot twice, yeah, they definitely did a lot right. It is a shame that Lai got out though. We'll never forget her. A better name than that? See, I'm not super crazy about any of these characters, but I do think they work well as a team. Their main claim to fame moment is definitely episode 7, where they use Robot Flower to try not to lose the challenge. Look at all these graphics, woo! I like it because it's a moment where every single member of the team is involved, which is always nice to see. Can you tell I'm a sucker for teamwork? Half the team being balls is kind of neat, Blocky being there adds in some spice. The 8-ball being team leader thing was kind of puzzling to me, because he stopped, but then resumed right before he got eliminated. Alright. Yeah, I can't really find much to say about these guys, the definition of true neutral, but they have this cool wall jumping scene, so they're a-okay with me. Ah, Lucky Taco, eh? You guys are pretty cool. Obviously, when this team comes to mind, the whole Taco arc probably comes first, which overall I think was pretty decent. While occasionally feeling like it overstayed its welcome, it gave way for good character development and some cool scenes. Besides the Taco thing, everybody also remembers this team since they took a whole 14 episodes to lose once, and due to this winning streak, each person on Taco got to be fully fledged out. Saw, Gady, even Dora felt valuable to the show. Even if 11-year-old me absolutely despised Lollipop, she had defined personality, and that's sick to see. They're basically the opposite of the losers, and despite how long Taco was shunned, they still worked together decently well. BFB 3, 6, and even when they didn't, it was still quite entertaining. I also have a little bit of bias, because I love Taco, so these guys are automatically bumped up. Ignoring that though, yeah, this team is probably the most consistent throughout pre-split, and definitely a great one. Last but not least, we have free food! Except they might actually be the least. This team, alongside the losers, is one that I would constantly forget even existed, and it's not like they're bad, they've got Marker for crying out loud. It's just, when I think of stuff to say about them, my mind kinda goes blank. I will say, similar to Team Ice Cube, something about this grouping feels very right, and there are cool moments of teamwork, like Eraser's motivation to Bell or Fry's trying to refold Foldy. This scene in episode 5 is also visually very cool, and again, Marker. Other than that though, yeah, I'm really stretching for things to say. Sorry, free food. If I were to number each team from least to greatest, it probably looks something like this. I don't actually dislike any of these teams, but some are definitely more worthwhile than others. Even still, it was fun rewatching and getting to see all of these buggers once more, and BFB will always be an amazing show to me, so if you haven't seen it, do it right now.